ready to really level up your productivity.
Ooh, I like that.
Today, we're going to dive deep
Yeah.
into Hyperfocus by Chris Bailey,
Yes.
which is all about unlocking this superpower that I think we're all kind of
Mm-mm.
craving these days, which is laser-like attention.
Yes, and Bailey really brings in the science.
Right.
It's not just motivational fluff.
Yeah.
This is about how your attention actually works.
Yeah, he starts with this really cool scene
Yeah.
that he sets in a bustling diner.
Okay.
You know, you got the sizzle of the bacon, folks glued to their phones, a couple deep in conversation,
Yeah.
kind of this whole spectrum of focus or lack thereof.
Right.
And it makes you realize we're always paying attention to something.
Yeah.
The question is, are we doing it well?
Exactly. And so the first step to mastering your attention is understanding its limits.
Yeah.
And Bailey brings in this concept of attentional space,
Okay.
which he kind of compares to your mental RAM.
Ooh.
And, we can only hold 4 chunks of information
Oh, wow.
at once,
That's it.
pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
So that explains why, you walk into a room and you completely forget why you're there.
Happens to me all the time.
It's like your brain hit its capacity and just dumped everything.
Yeah.
But what's really wild is
Yeah.
even when we are trying to focus,
Mm-hmm.
research shows that we only manage about 40 seconds.
What?
Yeah, 40 seconds before getting distracted.
Oh, my gosh.
And even worse, we often interrupt ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
We are our own worst enemies when it comes to focus.
Totally.
So if that's our baseline, imagine if we can intentionally extend that.
Right.
And that's where hyperfocus comes in.
Okay, so break it down for us.
Yeah.
What exactly is hyperfocus?
Yeah, so hyperfocus is about engaging
Okay.
both your external environment and your thoughts
Okay.
on a single task.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about blocking out the world.
Right.
It's about being present and immersed in what you're doing.
So it's more than just sitting in a silent room. It's
Yeah.
that being in the zone feeling.
Precisely.
Yeah. Okay.
And there are so many benefits.
Yeah.
We're talking increased productivity, better learning, and memory less fatigue.
It's like unlocking a new level of
Yeah.
your brain.
Exactly, yeah, like peak mental performance.
Okay. I'm sold.
Okay.
But how do we get there?
Yeah.
Is this something we're born with?
Well, the good news is
Okay.
it is a skill. You can develop it.
Okay.
And Bailey provides a roadmap for doing just that.
Right. Lay it on me.
All right, so it starts with intentionality.
Okay.
We have to move beyond autopilot
Right.
and make deliberate choices
Yeah.
about what deserves our attention.
I mean, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
But in a world with constant demands,
Mm-hmm.
how do we even decide what truly matters?
Right.
I feel like I'm always drowning in to-dos.
So Bailey has this great tool
Okay.
called the Rule of 3.
Ooh, the rule of 3.
So instead of letting your to-do list run wild,
Mm-hmm.
start each day by identifying your 3
Okay.
most important tasks.
Okay. 3.
And I mean, truly important, like the ones that align with your long-term goals.
So not just busy work,
Yeah, well,
but stuff that actually moves the needle.
exactly.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
So let's say I've got my 3 tasks.
Okay.
Am I just supposed to write them down and hope for the best?
Not quite.
Okay.
Specificity is key.
Right.
So Bailey emphasizes vague goals lead to vague results.
Yeah.
So instead of work on project X,
Right.
break it down into concrete steps.
Yeah.
Like write the introduction for project X, research data for project X,
Got it.
and so on.
It's like you're setting your GPS for success.
Exactly.
Okay, love it.
Yeah.
But let's be real.
Yeah.
Even with the best of intentions, distractions are everywhere.
They're everywhere.
How do we actually stay focused when our phones are buzzing, emails are piling up, colleagues are stopping by for a chat?
Right, the distraction dilemma.
Yes.
But Bailey breaks it down.
Okay.
He distinguishes between controllable distractions,
Okay.
like your phone and email,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and the ones that are harder to manage,
Right.
like a chatty coworker.
Okay, so for the controllable ones,
Yeah.
what's the secret weapon?
It's about creating what he calls a distraction-free mode.
Ooh, distraction-free mode.
Yeah. So you silence your phone, put on noise-canceling headphones,
Okay.
close all unnecessary tabs.
Uh-huh.
You're essentially building a fortress of focus.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
Like a productivity cocoon.
Right.
But what about those unavoidable interruptions?
Yeah.
You can't exactly ignore your boss when they walk over.
Right. True.
Right.
But you can have strategies in place.
Okay.
So Bailey suggests,
Mm.
setting expectations with colleagues, politely but firmly redirecting conversations.
Even like having designated focus time blocks
I like that.
in your calendar. So it's
Yeah.
all about setting boundaries
Yeah.
and communicating your needs.
Love it.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, even with all the right tools,
Uh-huh.
my mind still tends to wander.
Mm-mm.
Is there any hope for those of us with chronic mind drift?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And this might surprise you.
Okay.
Bailey advocates for something called scatter focus,
Scatter
which is
focus.
about intentional mind wandering.
Wait, so we're supposed to actually, like, encourage our minds to wander?
Yeah.
Isn't that the opposite of everything we've been talking about?
It might seem counterintuitive,
Okay.
but scatter focus is where creativity happens.
Okay.
That's where like those aha moments happen.
Okay, give me an example.
Think about those times when you're in the shower,
Yeah.
taking a walk, or just doing something mindless,
Right.
and suddenly a brilliant solution to a problem
Oh, I know that feeling.
pops into your head. Yeah, it's like my brain finally has space to breathe
Exactly.
and make those connections.
It does.
So how do we intentionally cultivate scatter focus?
Yeah.
Is it as simple as just zoning out?
Not exactly.
Okay.
There's an art to it.
All right.
So Bailey outlines several techniques,
Okay.
each with a specific purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So there's capture mode,
Capture mode.
which is like a brain dump.
Oh,
You
yeah.
write down everything swirling around in your head
Right.
to clear mental space.
That sounds amazing.
Right.
Like therapeutic almost? Mike?
Yeah.
What else?
So there's problem crunching mode,
Problem crunching mode?
where you hold a specific problem in mind,
Okay.
but you let your thoughts roam freely around it. It's like giving your subconscious a chance to work its magic.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's not about aimlessly drifting. It's
Right.
about giving your mind a specific target.
Yes.
Okay.
And then there's habitual scatter focus,
Habitual scatter focus.
which is about engaging in activities that naturally allow your mind to wander.
So things like taking a walk in nature, listening to music, or even just staring out the window.
Exactly. Activities that give your brain a break
Mm-hmm.
from focused attention
Okay.
and allow it to recharge and make new connections.
So we need both
Yes.
hyperfocus and scatter focus to really be at our best.
They're two sides of the same coin.
Okay.
They're both essential for peak performance.
Got it.
It's about finding the right balance,
Right.
knowing when to laser in
Mm-hmm.
and when to let your mind roam free.
So it sounds like what we're learning here is it's all about being intentional
It is.
with our attention, whether
Yeah.
we're focusing deeply or letting our minds wander.
Exactly. Welcome back.
Okay, so before the break, we were talking about this idea of balancing hyperfocus with scatter focus.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, are there any other factors that impact our ability to focus?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like, our energy levels throughout the day.
Right. Like sometimes I'm not feeling it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Bailey emphasizes this.
Okay.
He's like, we need to work with our natural energy cycles,
Okay.
not against them.
Right.
We all have those peak times when we feel like super alert and focused,
Mm-hmm.
and other times when our energy just dips.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to power through
Yeah.
when we're feeling drained,
Right.
we should actually schedule our most demanding tasks
Okay.
for those high energy periods.
So pay attention to your own rhythms.
Exactly.
Are you a morning person?
Yeah.
Do you hit your stride later in the day?
Right.
Okay.
Once you identify those peak times, you can really strategically schedule your work
Okay.
to maximize your focus and productivity.
It's so smart.
Right. Harness the power of your own internal clock.
But what about those days when you just can't seem to muster any energy no matter what time it is?
Yeah.
Are there any tricks for boosting our focus when we're just feeling sluggish?
Well, this might surprise you, but Bailey actually suggests that moderate alcohol consumption can actually enhance creativity.
Hold on. Are you saying a glass of wine can make us more productive?
Not quite.
Okay.
It's more nuanced than that.
All right.
But studies have shown that a moderate amount of alcohol
Okay.
can help loosen those mental gears
Okay.
and make those unexpected connections,
Yeah.
which is really key for brainstorming and creative problem solving.
So it's more about sparking those aha moments.
Exactly.
Okay.
Than powering through a spreadsheet.
Right.
And I want to emphasize moderation here.
Of course.
The research that Bailey cites focuses on the effects of a small amount of alcohol
Okay.
on purely creative tasks.
Got it.
When it comes to focus work that requires a lot of concentration and precision,
Right.
alcohol will actually hinder your performance.
That makes sense. I know if I have too many cocktails,
Yeah,
my attention span goes right out the window.
totally.
But I am curious about like the science behind this.
Yep.
How does alcohol actually impact the brain in a way that boosts creativity?
So it seems that alcohol in moderation reduces inhibitions
Okay.
and allows the mind to wander more freely,
Mm-hmm.
which helps make those unique connections that wouldn't happen in a more controlled state.
So it's almost like intentionally inducing a mild form of scatter focus.
You could think of it that way,
Okay.
but remember it's about strategic use.
Right.
Alcohol can be a helpful tool for certain types of creative work,
Mm-hmm.
but relying on it too heavily can definitely backfire.
For sure.
Yeah,
So moderation is key, as with most things in life.
exactly.
Now, shifting gears a bit,
Okay.
I know a lot of people rely on caffeine
Yeah.
to power through their work days.
Mhm.
Where does that fit into this whole hyperfocus equation?
So caffeine is kind of a double-edged sword.
Okay.
It can be a powerful ally
Okay.
for enhancing focus,
Mm-hmm.
especially for those intense hyperfocus sessions.
Right.
Research shows that caffeine boosts alertness,
Yeah.
improves reaction time,
Uh-huh.
can even sharpen memory.
So it's like giving your attention muscle a shot of espresso.
Exactly.
Okay.
But here's the catch.
Okay.
While caffeine can be great for hyperfocus,
Uh-huh.
it can actually hinder our ability to scatter focus. So-
Because it keeps us too wired to let our minds wander freely.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's all about timing and intention.
Right.
If you're about to dive into a task that requires deep concentration,
Yeah.
caffeine can be your best friend.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to tap into your creative side,
Okay.
it might be best to hold off on that extra cup of coffee.
This is making me rethink my entire caffeine strategy.
I know, right?
Okay, so speaking of our work environment, I've always wondered about the impact of these open offices
Mhm.
on focus.
Right.
They become so popular,
They have.
but I can't imagine they're very conducive to deep work.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
What's Bailey's take on that?
So open offices present a unique set of challenges. Bailey acknowledges both the advantages and the drawbacks.
Okay.
On the one hand, they can foster collaboration,
Yeah.
communication,
Right,
which can be valuable for certain types of work.
right.
But on the other hand, they can be incredibly distracting,
Oh,
especially for those of us who crave quiet and solitude to do our best work.
totally. I'm one of those people.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's hard to get into a flow state when you're constantly surrounded by noise and movement.
Exactly. And research actually shows
Yeah.
that people in open offices are interrupted more frequently
Wow.
and distract themselves more often.
So like those 40-second bursts of focus that we talked about,
Yeah.
forget about it.
Even harder to achieve in a noisy open environment.
So what's the solution? Should we all be demanding private offices?
It's not always that simple.
Okay.
Bailey emphasizes that productivity is about adapting to your constraints.
Okay.
So if you find yourself in an open office environment, it's about finding ways to create your own pockets of focus.
So things like using noise-canceling headphones,
Yeah.
creating a visual do not disturb signal,
Right.
or even strategically booking a conference room
Exactly.
when you need to really hunker down and concentrate.
Yes, it's about being proactive
Yeah.
and taking control of your attention,
Okay.
even in a less than ideal environment.
And it's not just about minimizing distractions. It's
Yeah.
also about making space for those moments of scatter focus.
Yeah.
Right?
Which can be tough in an open office.
How do you even begin to carve out time for intentional mind wandering in that environment?
Yeah, that's where taking regular breaks
Okay.
is even more crucial.
Right.
Instead of just scrolling through your phone at your desk,
Yeah.
step away from your workspace entirely.
Okay.
Take a walk, get some fresh air,
Mm.
find a quiet corner where you can let your mind decompress and wander freely.
It's almost like you need to be even more intentional
You do.
about creating those mental breaks in an environment that's designed for constant connection and stimulation.
Exactly.
And this brings us to another interesting concept that Bailey introduces,
Okay.
this idea of attention residue.
Attention residue, yes.
Tell me more. I've never heard of that before.
So it's this idea that
Yeah.
when we switch between tasks too quickly,
Mm-hmm.
a bit of our attention gets stuck
Oh,
on that previous task,
interesting.
even when we physically moved on to something new.
Oh, so even if I've closed my email and opened a new document,
Yeah.
my brain might still be lingering on the unfinished email or that half-written report.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that residue can really drain our mental energy
Oh, yeah.
and make it harder to focus on the task at hand.
That explains why I sometimes feel so scattered even when I'm trying to be productive.
Right.
It's like my attention is fragmented
Yeah.
pulled in multiple directions by those like lingering thoughts.
Exactly. And Bailey argues that by taking those intentional breaks, those moments of scatter focus, we can actually clear out the attention residue and
Interesting.
return to our work with a fresh perspective
Okay.
and renewed mental energy.
So those breaks aren't just about resting our minds.
No.
They're about resetting our mental state
Yes.
and actually improving our overall focus.
Exactly. It's like hitting the refresh button on your brain.
Love it.
And this brings us back to that central theme of balance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hyperfocus and scatterfocus aren't opposing forces.
Right?
They're complementary skills
Yeah.
that work together to really unlock our full potential.
I love that. And you know what else really stood out to me from the book?
Yeah.
Was Bailey talks about the importance of like feeding our minds with high quality information.
He does.
He calls these bits of information dots.
Yeah.
And he argues that our creativity and problem-solving abilities come from our ability to connect those dots in new and unexpected ways.
Yeah, the dot analogy.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
It's so good.
It reminds us that the quality of our thinking really depends
Yeah.
on the quality of the information we take in.
Exactly. And it made me realize that I need to be way more mindful of what I'm allowing into my mental space.
Right.
If I'm constantly consuming like junk information.
Mm-hmm.
It's no wonder I struggle to come up with creative ideas or make meaningful connections.
Right. And he encourages us
Yeah.
to conduct an information audit
Ooh, an information audit.
where you categorize
Okay.
the content you consume as, you know, useful, balanced, entertaining, or trashy.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a way to assess whether we're feeding our minds with junk food
Yeah.
or nourishing them with something more substantial.
And it's not just about the content itself.
Yeah.
It's also about how we consume it, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Bailey emphasizes the importance of being an active consumer of information.
Right.
So engage with the material, take notes, highlight key passages, summarize what you've learned.
Yeah.
It's like building a mental map
I like that.
of the dots you're collecting,
Right.
making it easier to recall and connect them later on.
It's like the difference between passively watching TV
Yes.
and actively participating in a discussion.
Yeah, exactly.
One just washes over you. The
Yeah.
other one like sticks with you
It does.
and shapes your thinking.
Yeah, and this is where hyperfocus and scatterfocus come into play again.
Okay.
We can use hyperfocus to deeply absorb new information,
Mm-hmm.
and then scatterfocus to make those unexpected connections
Yeah.
and generate creative insights.
I love that. All right, so we're back and we're wrapping up our deep dive into hyperfocus with Chris Bailey's amazing strategies for like mastering our attention in this crazy world of distractions.
It's not just about willpower,
Right.
right? It's about really understanding how attention works
Right.
and using those natural rhythms
Yeah.
and finding that balance between hyperfocus and scatterfocus.
Yes. And one of the things we were talking about before the break that I just found so fascinating was this idea from Bailey that our brains are basically dot connecting machines.
Yeah, love that.
So every piece of information that we encounter is like a dot. And then our creativity and our problem-solving skills come from being able to connect those dots in new and unexpected ways.
It's such a powerful way to think about it.
It is.
It reminds us that the quality of our thinking
Yeah.
really depends on the quality of information that we're consuming.
Right. So if we want to be more creative, more insightful, we need to be feeding our minds with a really rich diet of information.
Absolutely. And I think it's easy to get caught up in just like the quantity of information,
Right.
but it's really about the quality.
Yeah, not all dots are created equal.
Exactly. Some dots are just way more meaningful and have more potential than others.
Right. Some are like empty calories.
Totally.
So Bailey really encourages us to be more discerning about what we consume,
Yes, be picky.
to look for sources that are both reliable and engaging.
Yes, the stuff that makes you curious
Yeah.
and challenges you to think differently.
I love that it's like you're curating for your own mind. You're
Yes.
choosing what goes in there.
Yes, and the more dots we collect, the more expertise we develop.
Okay.
So the richer that mental landscape becomes,
Yeah.
the more connections we can make.
Right. So if I'm super passionate about history,
Okay.
the more I read and learn about history,
Yes.
the more dots I'll have in my brain
Exactly.
to connect.
And it makes it easier to make those connections.
Okay.
As our knowledge base expands,
Right.
our attentional space actually gets more efficient.
So we can hold more information at once.
Yeah, it's like our mental RAM gets an upgrade
I love it.
as we learn and experience more.
So what about information outside of our areas of expertise?
Oh, that's a good question.
Like, should we just be focusing on what we're already good at? Or is there value in branching out?
Bailey actually argues that it's super important to diversify that informational diet.
Okay.
He says that the most groundbreaking insights often come from those unexpected connections,
Interesting.
those moments where you encounter an idea from a completely different field.
Right. It's like cross-pollinating different fields of knowledge.
Yes,
To
exactly.
create something totally new.
Like think about art and science
Yeah.
or technology and music.
Ooh, yeah.
Those unexpected collisions can lead to really original thinking.
That's where scatter focus comes in again,
Clearly.
right? Giving our minds permission to wander,
Yes.
make those random connections.
You might stumble upon a solution that you never would have found through just focused thinking.
I love that, but it all feels a little overwhelming, to be honest.
Right.
Like with so much information coming at us constantly,
Yep.
how do we even filter it all and make sure we're choosing the right dots?
Bailey suggests starting by just being aware of what we consume on autopilot.
Okay.
When we're tired, stressed, just looking for a distraction,
Yeah.
we tend to reach for the low-quality stuff.
The trashy dots.
Exactly. The mindless scrolling, the sensational headlines.
The reality TV.
Yes. So we need to be more intentional
Yeah.
about seeking out those high-quality talks.
The good stuff.
Yes, the books that challenge us, the documentaries that broaden our perspective.
The conversations that spark new ideas.
And it's not enough to just passively consume this stuff.
Right.
We have to engage with it.
Yeah. Bailey says take notes, highlight key passages, summarize what you've learned, talk about it with others.
Yeah, it helps to really make it stick.
Like you're building a mental map.
Exactly.
And those connections can deepen and evolve over time, right?
Absolutely.
What might have seemed boring or irrelevant before could suddenly click and become this source of inspiration or insight.
Amazing how that happens.
It is. So it's all about being a lifelong learner,
Yes.
always looking for those new dots to add to our collection.
And going back to the ones we already have and seeing them in a new light.
I love that so much. Well, this has been an incredible journey into the world of hyperfocus.
It has.
We've learned so much about how our attention works, the importance of intentionality, and that balance between focused work and creative exploration.
Finding that sweet spot.
Yes, and Bailey leaves us with this challenge to really reflect on those dots that we're consuming and to make a conscious effort to choose information that is useful and personally meaningful.
It's a call to be curious, to be selective, and to be really intentional about what we let into our minds.
Because the quality of our attention really does determine the quality of our lives.
It does.
So as we wrap up, I encourage everyone listening to start experimenting.
Yes.
Find what works for you. Embrace both hyperfocus and scatterfocus and see how your productivity, your creativity, your overall well-being just starts to soar.
I love it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.